Alright everyone, it's time to talk a little bit about the drug war and Rick Scott. I am not a fan of Rick Scott. Yes, I understand that he's gone MAGA, generally speaking. He's sort of like a Ted Cruz to me. I spent some time living down in Florida. Rick Scott is a useful idiot, generally speaking, and nothing more. I do not have a terrible problem with him on the ideological level. Some of his views I agree with, and some of his views I completely discountenance. But on the personal level, no. I mean, would I let Rick Scott walk my cat? No, I would not. Would I like to have a beer with Rick Scott? Fuck no. Hell, his Democratic opponent, I'd probably rather have a beer with him. And he's had several of them. He's bounced back and forth between political offices and is a fixture of Florida politics. For those of you that don't know, Rick Scott, of course, I believe is currently in the Senate. He had been governor, fending off, what's his name, that dude that looked a little bit like Combs from Hannity and Combs. You remember that back in the day? He's just sort of a derp, sort of an intellectual fop, basically. Link in the description, archived, of course. Rick Scott has decided to use his dead brother as a reason to justify not voting in favor of recreational marijuana in his state. I completely condemn this. Number one, you are grifting. You're literally using a dead relative to show why you're not going to vote in favor of this. Despite the fact that recreational weed is legal in, a dozen states or something like that. It's been decriminalized in others. It can cause problems. But really, when you look at the problems that are caused by the drug war, the problems caused by drugs pale in comparison. It's completely lopsided. No, Rick, the fact that your brother decided to smoke weed did not lead to his death. The weed did not kill him. Other substances did. The gateway drug mythology is just that. It's been completely disproven. What we've seen in literature when scientific studies have been conducted is that people that started in on other substances began using marijuana for withdrawal treatment. So they were on heroin or crack or something like that. They're dry now. They're trying to get sober. And they've got the shakes and they're all fucked up. And so they smoke weed in order to cover up the symptoms to some degree. We see people using marijuana for pain management. They've got cancer, they're in chemo, they've got radiotherapy or something, their hair's fucking falling out, they're all fucked up, and they use marijuana because it's the only way that they can keep down a hot dog. And so in order to try to prevent them from dying of malnutrition or something like that, we give them marijuana. I don't see the difference between the pharmaceutical setting. This is corporatism, by the way, I'll explain. I don't see a difference between the pharmaceutical application of marijuana and people simply self-medicating. It's the same with kratom, for example. If you were to offer it in a pharmaceutical setting for people that are withdrawing from opioids, it could be helpful. But people can do that themselves with basic knowledge. Using the internet, it's fairly straightforward. It's not that difficult. If a person accidentally overdoses or something, that's very regrettable, but most people are going to be able to figure it out. The fact is that marijuana should be nationwide, totally unregulated. There should be no law against growing it. There should be no law against smoking it unless it's an applicable law that already exists for something like alcohol. You're allowed to drink all you want. You're allowed to manufacture alcohol unless you're selling it. Then you need a license, of course. But you can't drink and drive. You can't get completely hammered and stagger down the street pissing in the alleyway. That's the way it should be for marijuana. If a person wants to smoke a couple of tokes, they want a joint, they want to hit the bong a couple of times or something, fuck that. Don't regulate it at all. Marijuana did not kill your brother, Mr. Scott. The fact that you're voting against this because you've got this mythology in your head about the gateway drug that is marijuana, dating back to the 80s, showing your age, by the way, is fucking retarded. You're being retarded on marijuana law. That's the long and short of it. Marijuana should be unregulated, effectively. Don't sell it to kids. You know, if it's commercial or something like that, don't give it to kids. They don't need marijuana. They're crazy enough already. Don't smoke and drive. That's basically it. Don't smoke so much that you stagger around giggling to yourself and causing you're a menace to society or something. It can be an aggravating factor in other crimes, but it in and of itself didn't kill his brother. It's not killed anyone. Nobody has died because they accidentally used too much marijuana. Now, if you're extracting pure THC, yeah, you can have a psychotic episode. And by the way, Now, I'd like to address one other facet of the drug war mentality. Some people tell me, well, you can get marijuana psychosis if you smoke too much for too long. Yeah, you can do the same thing with alcohol. It happens to be legal. What's the fucking difference? There is no difference. Go ahead and smoke the weed, you know? It's legal in it's illegal in about a dozen states for a reason. Despite the fact that it's legal, it hasn't led to a huge rise in things like DUI. I mean, it can, potentially, although I've noticed that lately the roads really aren't policed here in the state of Vermont. You know, there's no speed traps or sheriffs around or anything. You barely even see any cops. I have a feeling they have hiring issues because of the progressive government. Wonderful for us. There's a reason why I own several firearms. You know, the old trusty. Rick Scott is completely beyond his ken at the moment. If he's using his dead brother, who died on hard drugs because he overdosed on them, as a reason to vote against recreational marijuana, which is not a hard drug, and it would be impossible under normal circumstances to smoke enough to die. You know, if you smoke a pound in an hour, you can die using marijuana, absolutely. Yeah, goddamn, you're going to have one hell of a vaping system for that. It's retarded. That's just what it is. That's about all. Peace out.